Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen, hosted by attorneys Shawn Garner and Adam Hansen.
Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law. I'm Shawn Garner, attorney with Deason, Garner, and Hansen, and I have Elizabeth Pollock, better known by Liz Pollock.
Yes.
She is our guest today. Adam is here running the boards, and he will participate if we get too much on the wrong track. But for now, we're going to jump right into it.
Okay.
Thank you, Liz.
Good. Hey.
So let's get a brief introduction for our audience here. Who are you? What do you do? What's your passion?
Okay. Ooh, I love that. Let's just unpack all that. My name, yes, Liz. I teach high school math at Gila Ridge High School. It's my first year there at Gila Ridge. Love it. Mostly I have juniors and seniors who don't necessarily love math, but I like to think that each morning they come in and they go, yes, I was waiting to come to math class.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same way in high school?
That I love math class?
Yes.
No, I hated it. No, that's delusional, but I'm glad you think that.
Delusional? I love how we're front loading the words here.
So, no, yeah, nobody loves math. Well, there are some of those introverts that are,
Yeah.
they basically run the world after high school, but during high school, they get stuffed in lockers and beat up.
Oh, I hope not any of mine. I love my students so much. I have almost 200 students right now, and they're the best.
Wow. How many classes?
5. So they're
Okay.
loaded.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and they grows daily, so
Wow.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. I like to think it's me. I think it's just the way their schedule works it on out. But yeah, math, and one of my passions is I love music and I love dead people.
You love dead people. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So my special hobby interest is doing family trees and searching out deceased relatives, but they don't have to be mine. They can be anyone's.
Okay.
And it is so fascinating.
Awesome.
So,
But you don't communicate with them.
I mean, if I could, that'd be amazing. But yeah, no, I don't. I don't
Okay.
know how to do that.
Awesome.
Do you?
No.
Okay, well, there we go.
No, I plan for death and disability, and I get to talk about it every day. So there we go. That's a common interest, I suppose.
Yes.
What I want to talk to you about today is the election. Now, typically on this show, what we like to talk about are issues that are not time sensitive. For example, constitutional issues that will be just as relevant today as they are 5 years ago, or were 5 years ago, or will be in 5 years. So something that you could listen to and say, okay, I'm learning about our country, I'm learning about our world, I'm learning about how things function, and what incentivizes people to do good things, and what prevents people from doing bad things, and so on. Because oftentimes, as an estate planner, we get clients that come into us and they ask us to prepare an estate plan that will help their child that is maybe lazy and failure to launch become more motivated when they receive the inheritance that they're about to leave them. And unfortunately, the answer is I can do nothing with the drafting of the trust or the estate plan that I'm going to provide. It's all in their upbringing. And so it's either going to work from the parent to how they raise their children and society, how we treat each other, or it's not. I can help it pass easily to the next generation without government interference.
Right.
And so we talk about what societal norms help individuals become more productive.
Oh, that's so funny, because I feel like I'm in the other end of that, where I'm watching children, teenagers in this situation, right? And there's a drastic difference between teenagers who are in a home with caregivers who care. And I say caregivers because in today's day, right, we don't know if it's mom or dad. We don't know if it's grandma or grandpa. It doesn't matter who it is at their home with them. If they care, it shows in their grades.
Okay.
It shows in their work habits. It shows in their respect level within the classroom.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So today, we're going to deviate a little bit from our traditional, which is these long-term, time-honored principles, and we want to focus on the election.
Okay.
And so this might be irrelevant here in 4 weeks, but nonetheless, I think it's important. So if there was one factor that persuaded you to vote the way you're going to vote, well, let's get out there a little bit first and lay the foundation. How are you going to vote, and how do you describe yourself as on the political scale? Are you a conservative? Are you liberal? Are you an old school Democrat? How would you describe yourself?
I would put myself right in the middle.
Okay, so you're independent.
I would put like more libertarian.
Okay, good.
That's where I would put myself.
And quite
Do
honestly,
I know what that means? Not really. I took a test once online.
Uh-huh.
It was like libertarian or egalitarian. What is it?
Libertarian, yes. So libertarians feel like there should be hands-off government,
Yes.
that people should be allowed to do basically whatever they want, live and let live.
No, that's not what. Okay, so here's mine.
Okay.
Mine is somewhat hands off, with like the understanding that we are respectful of each other.
Sure, you can't have people infringing upon your rights. So that's the government's
Or the
only
opposite.
role.
Don't infringe on other people's rights either.
Sure. So the government's only role is to make sure that your rights are protected from the infringement of others or the government itself. Other than that, the government should not get involved in your personal choices, should not get involved in who succeeds in life and who fails. They should just back off and let society and the market determine the winners and the losers.
I don't know if I would go that detailed
Oh.
as far as the market and the whatever. I feel like that even like, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Also, we started this podcast with you being like, I got all these notes and I'm just like winging it here. So I'm enjoying this.
Well, because you're the expert and I'm just...
Oh, I'm the expert.
I'm just the interviewer. So I want to talk to you about some of the things that the nation has seen as important issues, the top 10 issues in this
Okay.
upcoming election.
Let's hear what
And
they are.
I want to hear your
Reaction.
how you rank them.
Okay.
Okay. So the economy, terrorism and national security,
Okay.
types of justices that may be appointed on the Supreme Court
Yes.
by the next president, immigration,
Mm-hmm.
education, healthcare, gun policy, abortion, taxes, and crime.
Okay.
So which of those stood out to you as being
I
top of the
already
list?
immediately, I need to see that list more in front of my face. Abortion's so scandalous, or such a not scandalous, so that one stuck out to me immediately. Oh, and then you said, what did you say? Education. So that one jumps out. Education. Terrorism was actually the first one. Wait, am I ranking these in my list of importance? What did you ask me again?
Jumps out to you as this would be an issue that I would make a decision one way or another to vote for this type of politician?
Oh, okay. So 0.
0 what? None of these?
This is not where
That's not your list.
That's not my list.
Okay, great. What's important to you then? What factors contribute to your decision and who you vote for?
Okay, do we even come out and say who we're voting for? Is that a thing on here?
I do. I'm voting for Trump.
Okay, so I'm voting for the childless cat lady, and I'm really sad that I don't have a cat right here, except for I'm allergic, but
Okay.
if I did,
So, and
stroking the cat.
that's why you're here. You're voting for Kamala Harris,
Yes.
and I'm voting for Donald Trump. And so, do you love Kamala Harris? Do you love her personality traits? Do you think that she is a stand-up person that we should model our lives after?
Okay, so
Because I don't feel that about Trump, and
Okay.
that's what I want to throw out there right off the bat. I am voting for who I think will take our country in the right direction, not which personality I like the best.
Okay. So I'm just going to rewind to, when did Trump run the first time? What year was that?
2016.
Okay, I was like, I remember where I was, but I couldn't tell you the year.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, is it the primary elections where you vote first before they actually have
Yeah,
the actual
mm-hmm.
election?
Correct.
So we had the option to vote for Trump before he actually ran like officially,
Yeah, Ted
right?
Cruz was the one that the party thought was going to be the nominee.
Okay.
And Trump was like, no, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
And the party kept trying to convince him out of it because they didn't think that he was a serious candidate.
Okay.
And he was like, you know what? It's me. I don't care what you guys think.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be told what to do. So
Okay.
that was 2016.
Okay, so that's where I was, 2016. And I remember talking to my dad prior to, and he was telling me his political viewpoints, which you and him would be like having a great conversation, but he's dead, so you can't have a conversation with him right now. It's okay. Anyway, and he was like, you can't vote for Hillary Clinton. She's the worst. And he was listing off all these reasons. And my stepmom saying all these reasons why you can't. And I was like, I don't even know. I'm in the middle of raising little babies. So, okay, I'm just going to go with what my dad says, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went as a grown adult listening to what my dad says. And I was in the voting booth and I voted for Trump on that primary election.
Okay.
And I had the worst.
Well, Hillary wouldn't have been on the primaries.
Okay, which one was I'm talking about
The
then?
general. So that would be the
No, I
general
swear
election.
it was the primary though, because
Okay.
it wasn't like president yet.
Okay, so it was like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Donald Trump, and you had to choose between one of those.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
And I remember voting for him because that's what I did. And I was like, I don't know, I went home and I did not feel good. I didn't feel good on the minute I left the voting thing. And I just kind of had this sick, disgusting feeling to my stomach.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't think I made the right choice in there.
So who did you vote for the general election then?
So
Did
for
you
the
vote
general
Hillary?
election, I was like, well, it's Hillary or Trump. It's Hillary or Trump.
'Cause there was
And
an
at that
independent.
point, didn't they had just come out, remind me if I'm accurate, like on the media, I feel like there was something like with Marines in the Middle East or some sort of military, something went down. I don't know what it was. And it was like all this shady information was made, like they were putting light on all this shady, what was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there was a
And then
terrorist
that
attack
made
on
me
the
sick to my
embassy.
stomach. And I'm like, I'm sick to my stomach both ways. And I thought, well, if both of them are making me sick, I'll just vote for Trump. And he got in office, and I was like, all right, all right. I didn't always love the way that he was conducting things. I didn't love that.
Okay,
So I've seen that go down for 4 years.
all right, and I'll tell you that in that election, I didn't vote for Trump either. And the reason why, I told my wife, listen, I'm going to vote for the independent because I can't stand Hillary, and I don't think I can explain to my children that I don't want you to model your life after the President of the United States, who I voted for. And because I thought his character flaws were too big to overcome. So I didn't vote for him. He got elected, obviously, and ran the country for 4 years. And the Supreme Court justices that were appointed, I thought were great. And I thought he did a really good job determining who was actually a qualified candidate. And I think that the justices have done a fantastic job in upholding the Constitution and looking at truly what it says and trying to balance that with what our country's tradition has been. Because right now, with Supreme Court justices, they give a lot of weight to what's called stare decisis, and that means let the decision previous stand unless there is an overwhelming reason to overturn a prior decision. And so these types of things like civil rights movements, have overcome. The Dred Scott case was one of those cases where it was determined that even if a slave went to a free state, he was still a slave and still owned by the slave owner and could be taken back from that slave state. And so that was overturned, of course, when we had societal changes that, no, we don't
own people.
We don't own people,
Yeah.
right? So those big decisions, it took something massive in the society to overturn those decisions. And this court is looking at it more from a basic constitutional fundamental and saying, what does the Constitution say? Can we find some semblance in the decision that was made, Roe v. Wade, or Planned Parenthood versus Casey, and say, yes, that is constitutional. And although I wouldn't have agreed upon it at the time had I been on the court, I can see where they're coming out with their constitutional rationale, and therefore we're going to uphold that decision. And these justices have been more liberal in saying it's not in the Constitution, therefore it's not a constitutional right. And they've overturned, that's what the Dobbs case did, or Dobbs, sorry, in 2022. And so that overturned 50 years of precedent with abortion being a right that the states could not infringe upon. And a lot of people are up in arms about that. I still don't think a lot of people really understand what that means, because when you ask most people whether 9 justices in the Supreme Court should decide whether or not people should be allowed to have an abortion, most say no. And you say, okay, then do you agree with the overturning of Roe v. Wade? And then they'll say again, no, Roe v. Wade should have stayed in place.
Hey, remind me, I didn't come in with history.
That's okay.
What, Roe v. Wade, like, what did they decide in that one again?
Roe v. Wade was the decision. It was Sandra Day O'Connor, which was appointed by Reagan. He thought that she was going to be a conservative, and she was the deciding vote, and was from Arizona, first woman justice. And she wrote, I believe, the opinion on that, and it was that states cannot infringe upon an individual's right to have an abortion up until the time the child is not viable, right? So if the child cannot live outside the womb on its own, then the state cannot prohibit abortion. That is Roe v. Wade. And so what it did basically was take 9 people in the Supreme Court and say, states, you don't have authority to make laws on this issue that will infringe upon an individual's right to have an abortion. So they said it's a constitutional right. Now, the current court has said it's not in the Constitution. It may be some other right somewhere else, and the states may grant that right for an abortion, but it is not stated in the Constitution. Hence, we're overturning Roe v. Wade. So states can make their own laws regarding abortion. They can allow it up until conception, up until birth, or they could outlaw it after conception. We as the Supreme Court do not have that authority to read into the Constitution what is not actually written into there. So we're going to allow the states to decide on an individual basis. And if it's explained that way to many individuals, they say, well, okay, then we get to vote who our legislatures are, and they get to make laws that will represent our vote.
Which is how a republic works, yes.
Which is how the republic works. And so when that's
Yay,
explained,
government.
yes,
I got that.
Then most people are, yes, we want to be able to make our own decisions, but they still want, and this is the talking point for most of the candidates, especially the current nominee, or actually the Democratic candidate, it is that Roe v. Wade should not have been overturned, that the Supreme Court should require certain things, and all states have to abide by that ruling. We got to go on a break, but I want to come back and get your thoughts on whether or not the Supreme Court should write in new laws or allow the states to make the laws and only maintain the Constitution as it was written. This is Life, Death, and the Law.
Coming up, more thought-provoking conversations on life, death, and the law right after this.
Hey, Yuma, Dave Ramsey here. If you listen to our show or know anything about us, then you know I only recommend products and services I trust and I believe in. That's why when it comes to protecting your assets and planning for your loved one's future, you've got to call my friends Shawn Garner and Adam Hansen at the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen. I encourage you to take the first step and attend a free, no-pressure seminar and learn all of your options. The firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen has been educating the Yuma community for over 40 years, and this is the only area of law that they practice. Shawn and Adam believe in giving free education to help people make smart decisions about their assets and help them leave a legacy for their family that they can be proud of. Schedule a free personal consultation today. Call 783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.
You're listening to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by Deason, Garner, and Hansen, the law firm that has been voted Yuma's best 6 years in a row.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and the Law. I'm Shawn Garner, and I'm an attorney with Deason, Garner, and Hansen. We do estate planning. We help people get their affairs in order so they know what they have, and they can pass it along to their loved ones without the government getting involved. But right now, I've got Liz Pollock on the show.
That sounds so like what we were just talking about, like leave the government out of it so people can just do their thing.
So
wow.
That is the libertarian
Listen to
approach.
you.
I would align more with a libertarian than I would with the Republicans or the Democrats. I think that the system is rigged on either side. And I'll tell you what, that is why That is the biggest redeeming factor that Trump has, and that's why he has my vote, is because he cannot be told what to do. I think he says a lot of stupid things.
Oh, geez. My kids can't be told what to do either.
Right.
Apparently, there we are.
And here's the thing. I think that the biggest threat to democracy is the deep state. Now, others...
What is the deep state? Is that the South? What are we talking about?
The deep state is the administration, the three-letter...
You got to dumb it down. Like if it was ChatGPT, I'd say
CIA,
simplify.
The FBI,
Okay.
the IRS...
Any government agency.
Any government agency that these employees basically have tenure. They cannot be fired. They're running the government behind the scenes, and we've got these politicians that are simply sitting up and being puppets. And it feels like that's becoming more...
Deep state is the string holders? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
And they're just pulling all the
they're
strings.
The puppeteers.
Got it.
And Joe Biden was, for a lot of people, the wake-up call that it...
Does he like to go by Joe? Do we know?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I never heard him called Joseph.
Okay.
That was the big wake-up call to the world that he is not running the government.
Everybody knows that. Yes.
Right. So somebody else is. That somebody is the wizard, right, behind the curtain that we don't see. And we'd like to see them. We'd like to know who they are, and we'd like to get rid of them. I don't know who it is.
You don't have any speculation.
No.
Well,
I don't. It's not one person. I mean,
well, I know it's got to be a cooperation, like a whole like.
There are thousands and thousands of people that they have the machine running, and they want their politicians well in pocket. They want to have a politician that has a lot of skeletons in the closet, so they can
have blackmail on them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And Donald Trump is like.
You think he can't be bought? Is what you're saying?
Stormy Daniels, what? Oh, yeah, I slept with her. What? What else you got? What's the real scandal here? Oh, there was some money paid, I don't know, for election campaign finance in this New York case. He's like, well, what else you got? You really can't get him with anything, right? And he's basically making his own decisions. Now, if it were that in and of itself, I'd go back to my 2016 version and say, he's off the rocker, right? He's unhinged. I don't know what he's going to do. But we saw 4 years of Donald Trump. We saw no new wars. We saw a booming economy. We saw appointments of very good justices.
Okay, let's back it up really quick, though. Let's back it up really quick.
Okay.
How long does it take for his things that he put into plan? Like, what did he put into plan, and how long does that take to happen?
Well,
because what I understand of government is that it is anything but fast.
Sure. So let's look at that. So let's go to Joe Biden and see what happened during Joe Biden's administration. Okay, so he was he took the presidency in 2021. He was elected in 2020. And in 2021, we had Russia invade Ukraine.
Hey, we all saw that debate the other day, right? By the other day, it could have been any time last year.
Sure. And we've seen the Middle East going into total disarray, right? It's closer to a third world war and this European war in the Middle East and with China's aggressions than we've ever been. And so if your question is,
and you feel like if Trump was there, it would have not been like that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, all I can say is what I saw, and they weren't like that. And so we had 4 years of peace and prosperity, and now we've
Do you want to tell that to the towns that were burnt down during Black Lives Matter? Hold up. Pause real quick. So here's where I'm going with that one. So I'm married to a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
Okay. He works for, I'm just going to leave it at that, right? He's a law enforcement officer. So during 2020, when COVID shut everything down, right?
Right. Well, the government shut everything down and used COVID as an excuse.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the United States.
No.
How many other governments did the
Lots.
same thing?
But there were some that
so
didn't.
many others. But
like
yes,
Sweden.
I don't know anything about Sweden. But I know that
Sweden didn't do it.
I saw my friend in Italy sitting in her house just the way other people were, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I've got
many governments
lots of little windows, and I'm not talking about TikTok windows. I'm talking about friends that I know that live in Europe that were also on lockdown. So I do not believe that it was only the United States that was on lockdown. I feel like there was many other countries that were on lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there we are. Meanwhile, on lockdown, my husband in law enforcement, that was an essential employee, right? Is that what they called him?
Yeah.
What do they call them?
Essential
employees?
workers.
Essential workers. So he was told that he had to just keep going to work. Okay, whatever. So that's fine. So he kept going to work. Not like he was planning on staying home. It was like fine. It was no big deal. And then there started erupting all these like Black Lives Matter rallies or protests or riots or whatever. So I would call that a different type of war, but I would put it in the war bucket, if that makes sense. And you just said we didn't have any, but I don't agree with you.
Well, we didn't have any.
And here's why it's new and personal to my life.
Foreign conflicts.
That it wouldn't be personal. See, what domestic is even worse sometimes because you got to live through that. So near and dear to my heart is Black Lives Matter. Okay, his agency that he works for, his government agency, required him to work every day with no breaks, no days off. I don't know the exact number because I didn't pay attention, but it was well within the weeks where there was not a single day off for my husband for this not war that you just said. It was a war. All law enforcement in his agency, if you had vacation, they took it away and you were at work. You were doing your job. And I don't remember that they were 12-hour shifts. I think they were still like maybe 10-hour shifts, but they weren't 8-hour shifts.
And you think Donald Trump caused this?
No. That's not where I'm going. Well, I don't think he helped. Anyway, so you have all this going down. Oh, shoot, I forgot where my main point was, though. I was on it. I was ready.
There were conflicts that were occurring.
Yeah.
And it's a politician that it has to take the fall for it, has to take responsibility for it. And
yeah, but
Donald
like
Trump was in office at the time.
Throwing in like, yeah, he was in the office at the time, and it did not go well.
Well, but who was he supporting
a mess.
Black Lives Matter? Because there were certain Republicans that supported Black Lives Matter that were contributing to that chaos, and Antifa and all of those.
Yeah, that was just a mess.
It was, and he was not for Black Lives Matter. I'm not for it. I saw it from.
Well, I don't know that
at
anybody was like, you know what we should do? Go steal stuff and break things and set things on fire. Like, I don't think the general population was
actually,
like, we should set stuff on
The
fire.
current Democrat nominee said that it's a way to protest, and that is one way.
It is. That is definitely a way to protest.
Yes, and she argued for defunding the police. And she said property can be replaced, but
Oh, that's right. Now it's all coming back to me with that law enforcement guy and the guy, and he can't breathe.
Stood up for them a lot, yes, for George Floyd, and that the country went into all these riots because there were some singular events that gave them talking points.
That's where I was going too. So this was all up in flames, and she can say whatever she wants to say. She was not in the president. She was not in the White House. Was
Right.
she a senator at the time?
Yes.
Okay. What did Trump do to fix that?
Well, Trump certainly didn't want to defund the police, right? And that's
right, but like in the moment,
that's what she was calling
what was
for.
it doesn't matter what she was calling for. She's not the president.
Okay.
He's the president.
Right.
What did he do to fix it?
Well, what he did was he, I think, supported law enforcement. And what can you do other than give law enforcement your full support to allow them to do their jobs? Let's contrast that to what's happening at the border right now. They're saying that the border is out of control and we need more money and we need more laws to fix it. But in reality, if you talk to a Border Patrol agent, you just need the actual administration to allow them to do their jobs. Mm-hmm. Right now, a Border Patrol agent's been turned into a secretary to file paperwork and bust people inland. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think the president can single-handedly go out there and stop the riots, but he can certainly show support to the police. And that's why the police right now support him. So law enforcement support Trump overwhelmingly over Kamala Harris, and I think that demonstrates...
Side note.
Sure.
My husband and I, our voting will cancel each other.
Sure, and that happens, and quite
I
honestly,
feel like I should throw that disclaimer in there.
I think that is a noble thing for people to respect each other enough to allow their vote to cancel out the other, instead of saying, no, we have to agree on this. I think you've got to understand there are different ways to see things, and like-minded people can see things from different viewpoints and still have good rationale for voting the way they are. And that's what we're trying to explain right now to our listeners, that there are reasons that I'm voting for Donald Trump. And one of the main reasons is that he cannot be pushed around. He cannot be told what to do.
You don't
He cannot
think
be
anybody
controlled.
owns him a little bit?
I don't
You don't
think so.
think
I do
you
not.
don't think he has a little backdoor, what would you call that? Agreement with anybody at all? Because I'm voting the way I'm voting. Do I think she's clean too? No.
Okay, so
why? Because she's a human being.
well,
Nobody's clean.
Let me answer your question on that. To the extent that a politician is independent and makes decisions based on their own, I think that's him. And I think that for as garbled of answers as he gives, and as much as incendiary speech as he spews out there,
That's such a fancy word. Say it again.
His policies are good. And I say that because I look at the result. For example, I want to quote scripture.
Wow, we just took a U-turn. Okay, I'm ready.
And so I'm going to quote some Matthew here. Matthew 21, 28 through 31.
Who's Matthew? Give a little background.
It's in the New Testament. And so Matthew writes down a parable that Christ spoke, and this is what it says. A certain man had 2 sons, and he came to the first and said, Son, go to work today in my vineyard. He answered and said, I will not. But afterwards the son repented and went and worked. And he came to the second and said likewise. And the second son said, I will go. But he went not. Which of them did the will of his father?
Right.
So my thing is, Trump says a lot of stuff that is stupid, and a lot of people think that if he could just be quiet, then he could be much more electable. If he could take away his Twitter account, then he wouldn't tick so many people off.
Be so embarrassing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I, quite honestly, can't stand to listen to one of his speeches for more than 5 minutes. But
that is actually
the
refreshing
policies do reflect the types of things that I'd like to see happen in the world and in our country, and that is more hands-off government, less restrictions, allow the country to work on a monetary system that lets the market dictate who the winners and losers should be, instead of the government choosing who their special interests are.
Wait, doesn't that borderline on democracy then, if you go that far? Because if you just have like the people choose, but then you rule out the republic thing.
Wonderful point. Now, Thomas Sowell, who is one of the greatest economists of all time, and he was a protege of Milton Friedman, said that the market is democracy times 1,000, because we vote with our wallets every single day, multiple times a day. And so we get
whether
to determine
we want to or not.
What kind of cereal should be successful, what kind of shoe company should be successful, what kind of lawyers we want to, have their firms grow, what type of teachers we want to hire, because we take our kids and we enroll them in the schools that we feel are most appropriate for them. Instead of having the government say, this is the type of product you ought to have, and this is how much profit you can have off of that product. There's a lot of talking points with Kamala Harris today that she's going to limit the price gouging. Well, nobody is voluntarily allowing themselves to be gouged. They are choosing where to buy things, and there are competitors out there that are saying, I can produce the same thing, better even, for a lower price, come to me instead. Politicians cannot, no human being could potentially determine what is going to be the best interest for us, because there's millions of us, and we all have different opinions and different needs and different tastes. And so we get to determine through the market what actually is going to succeed and what's going to fail. Now, when the government comes in and takes my tax dollars and your tax dollars
And says this is
pours
what
it
will
into
succeed.
yes, some special interest that they have, and they say, electric cars are going to be the future and they're going to succeed and
They're
going to
save us all. Don't you know that?
then that is where we start to crumble. So we've got to take a break. We're going to come back and talk more about that. But I want to hear more about what the policy is that is influencing your decision to vote the way you are. So this is Life, Death, and the Law. We'll be back in a moment.
Coming up, more thought-provoking conversations on life, death, and the law right after this.
Want to hear more Life, Death, and the Law? You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or any other platform you listen to your podcasts.
You're listening to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by Deason, Garner, and Hansen, the law firm that has been voted Yuma's best 6 years in a row.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and the Law. I've got Liz Pollock on the show. And
Hello.
Liz, I am dying to know why you want to vote for Kamala Harris.
Well, you've been dying for so long. Yes, keep
Can
going.
I ask you, are you voting against Donald Trump or are you voting for Kamala Harris?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't know if I could even answer that.
Or is it both?
Maybe both.
Okay. But more against
Sprinkle it all
Donald
in
Trump.
together.
Like Donald Trump's name on the ballot, can you envision yourself checking the box?
No,
Okay. Why?
because of that reaction I just gave.
But
I know it
why
was
do
so
you
great.
have that reaction? Because
Okay, why do I have the
his
reaction
hair?
to Donald?
Does he have-
The hair's not helping, or the
his skin's
Cheeto
orange,
thing.
okay.
Yeah, like that's not helping either. I watched him be as the president before. I've seen him talk, and I do not
personality.
watch closely. So if somebody's listening to this, first of all, they're asleep. Second of all, if they are still awake,
Okay.
you know what they're thinking? This girl knows zero things about politics.
Well, that's why
yes.
most people know zero things about
100%
politics.
true.
They just vote on sound bites.
I vote no. Okay, sound bites, and I'm a girl.
Emotion.
Just emotion and just like the vibe, I would call it. Just getting a vibe from a person, that's what I'm voting for.
Okay. So, what is it? So, policy-wise, if you were to lay out 10 world-changing policies and 9 of them were in the favor of Donald Trump, you still couldn't vote for him. If that were the case.
Okay, if they were world-changing, like life-altering policies, and it
Yes.
was like so amazing, and Trump was actually at the heart of them,
Yes.
he wouldn't say the things that he says.
Okay.
Do you agree?
No. But
Really?
I can understand why you would say that because, yes.
Okay, let's back this up. So here we are. I come into this office. This is a law firm.
Yes.
Would you employ somebody as your receptionist or like the public view that says the most ridiculous, offensive things ever? Would you employ somebody like that is answering your phones and talking to your clients or your potential clients or whatever it is and having that be
What
the
is
face
my
of your
alternative?
thing? Your alternative is...
'Cause-
I don't know.
'cause
But I'm just saying in
again,
general,
in the words of
when you go hire
Thomas
someone,
Sowell, there are no
you're probably
right
not
answers.
like,
There's just
who's
trade-off.
an, let's fire, wait, can we say bad words on this?
You just did.
I just did. Let's hire that guy. No, you're going to look for the one that has a little more finesse.
Right.
Especially when you're dealing
So-
with people that maybe they just lost a loved one.
Assuming-
You're not going to have someone that's like, sorry, or maybe they don't say sorry. They probably wouldn't say sorry. They would just be like, yeah, well, your husband just died. Okay, a little bit of read the room. Just read the room a little bit.
So if we have two choices,
Two
somebody
choices.
that can
Well,
get,
don't we have like 10 choices? We got independent choices.
well, 2 real choices.
That's the guy who voted independent before. I love it.
Right, because yes. So, but you're saying would I hire them? If I've got 2 people that walk into my office, right?
Okay.
And one
Are they
can get
trying
the
to get a
work
job?
done.
Is that where we are?
Yeah, we're
We're
going
talking
back
about
to your
hiring.
hypothetical.
Okay, good.
One can get the work done, and the other can't get the work done, and but is more pleasant.
Okay.
I'm going to hire the person that can get the work done.
Even with the mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. What if they have the mouth, but they're not actually doing the job?
Well,
And the one that's a little more finesse isn't the best at her job, but like she's okay.
That would be, a different
That's
scenario.
where I feel like I am.
So if we feel like Kamala Harris could actually help out with the economy, would help us be a free people, and you and I have both indicated that we're more libertarian than any other party.
Because we don't like to be told what to do.
Hands-off government. I think Kamala Harris is hands-on to the extreme. In fact, she's got a voting record in Congress as the most left-leaning, meaning the most intrusive government of any of the senators. And therefore, I don't want her to get involved. I'd rather have somebody that sounds like an idiot that stays out of my life run things than somebody that couldn't say the correct things and gets into my everyday affairs and takes a big chunk of my paycheck home.
But if she's so incompetent, how is she getting into your life daily? Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, it's because she's not running the government at all. It's the deep state that's running the government. She's allowing them to do it. Donald Trump won't allow the deep state to run the government, and that's why I want him in.
I still can't vote for him.
And I'm not trying to persuade you
I hear what you're
to.
saying, though.
I'm not trying to persuade you to, but that's why, is because he's so offensive. He's so disrespectful.
Yeah.
And the way that he
Can
speaks...
you see how, as a woman, seeing how he has talked of and makes a mockery of his current marriage, how...
I don't know about the
How
specifics of his
in the
current marriage,
world?
quite honestly. But I can say generally, when I saw that he was a candidate in 2016 or 15 when he was running into the primaries, I thought, this isn't real. This isn't going to happen.
And then it did.
And then it did. However, I was surprised, and pleasantly so, to see that the country actually fared well and the world fared well. And so I had to come back and say, you know what? I'm going to eat crow, and I'm going to go with what works as opposed to what looks good but doesn't work. I'm going to go with the son that says, I ain't doing it, Dad, but then goes out in the vineyard and works, instead of the son that says, yes, sir, and sits on the couch and plays video games.
See, and I don't know. I think we'll find out in 4 years what happened. First of all, we don't know who's going to win.
We don't. No, not at all. But so you are voting against Trump. It's not that Harris gives you the warm fuzzies. It's not that
She does much better at public speaking, in my opinion. Just
No,
from their little...
absolutely fine.
I watched their debate because I was like, oh, I should probably watch this.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think I saw the beginning part of it. I may have come like halfway through and then watched through. And I was like, dang girl, yes. And her closing remarks had me feeling all the feels. Now, was it staged? I don't know. But she said things that I was like,
all
yes,
politicians are
yes,
staged.
yes. But if Trump was saying the things that he needed to say, he made me...
Right.
I had to like
eating the
take
cats
out
and
that never,
dogs.
because the minute I say never, then something happens. So like, never say never. But I'm not voting. No.
Okay. So the eating the cats and dogs, was that the thing that got you?
Oh my gosh, that was just ridiculous. That was just another like, there we are again. Have you seen the lady who lives in said town with her rebuttal on that? Oh my gosh.
No, I haven't.
Phenomenal.
But
To her like city...
I look at it from a very skeptical
What is that,
lens.
city council or something like that? Oh my gosh, it was amazing. She did great. Very snarky.
Okay.
Classy, though.
So
Not like
you hate Donald Trump, and you're okay with...
I wouldn't say hate. Yeah, I would.
Okay. Right?
I was
He
trying
makes you
not
vomit.
to. He does make me vomit.
And so rather than look past the personality and...
Do I think he would rape
the
somebody if he was
vulgarness.
president? 100%.
Okay.
100%. Why would I say that? Because of the way he talks about and treats women. So those 2 points, 1 point, same point, right? Absolutely not. There's no way. And giving him all the power? Absolutely not. Because he already has grown up so entitled his whole life that I'm aware of, right? Like and that's just like media. So maybe he's not entitled
But he
behind
was
closed doors.
president for 4 years, and
He was already
rape
president.
anybody that we
Well,
know
did
of.
he?
Well,
Did he?
I don't know. The
Did
media
he?
is
I don't
pretty-
know.
They're beating the bushes pretty hard to find some allegations, and the best
I'm
they came
just
up
saying
with was Stormy Daniels.
that's where my mind
20
goes.
years ago.
Was like, ugh, no thanks.
Uh-huh.
No thanks. How do you? Like, I cannot separate that. Like, how he is publicly on his Twitter page when he was president, right? Or what is it now, X?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if he's on
I don't know
X.
anything about X.
He's on Truth
Wait,
Social.
X was Twitter reinvented. What's his?
Truth Social.
Truth Social. Nothing says you're telling lies more than when you say that. I don't believe any of the social media things, but some of them are very entertaining.
So
But,
you
yeah,
wanted to
I
talk
just-
about
as a person.
education.
Oh, I love, yes.
So what about education? I think the government should stay out of education. I think that we should allow the market to dictate education. I think parents are the best judge as to who is going to be the best educator for their kids, and it should be.
I don't agree with that totally, but I see
Okay.
where you're going with that. But
what
and
do you-
here's
what
the
do you
backside
believe?
of it. So I am not super duper well versed in the education system. Let me just back this up. Like, I started teaching full time for reals last year.
Okay.
Up until that, I've been a mom, and I have 7 kids on purpose.
So who
with
is
my
better?
husband.
Who is in a better position than you to determine how your children should be educated?
Do you mean should be educated? Like, but like when you say that, what does that mean to you? Should be like how? Like who their teacher is, what they're learning. What are we talking about? Because that's many
The subjects
facets.
they're learning,
Subjects.
the process in which they learn it.
Oh, okay. So what would you say the best process would be, like for your family in general?
I'm saying I get to make those decisions individually as a parent on my kids' behalf because
Mm-hmm.
I have the greatest vested interest in my children. I don't think the government has a better view and better insights than I do as a parent. So I should be allowed to look at all the different options out there, and there should be many options, and I should be able to select that option and allow my tax dollars to be contributed to the option that works best for
Tell
my
me
kids.
you're a middle class family without telling me you just did. Now, there are students who roll into school. Let me just go back, and I'm going on a tangent, so I'll probably forget where I was trying to end up at the end, but here we are. So there I was. There was a pep rally going on at the school, and I saw a couple of my students. They're in different class periods, but they're friends, and I saw them walking late to school. And I was like, what the heck, man? Why are you late? We had a test going on today. Actually, we didn't. I'm not dumb enough to have a test on a pep rally day, but I really wanted that girl to be in class because we were preparing for a big test. It was a unit test, right? So like 5 different weeks worth of content in one test. I really wanted her to be there because I know she worries about her grades. And she's like, oh, he's my ride, and da-da-da. I was like, girl, be your own boss. Get your own ride. Don't be relying on him. I need you to be at school on time because you're in my first period class. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'll try and do my homework. They're not going to do their homework later. But, you know, we like to give them a benefit of the doubt. So she rolls in, and they go into the pep rally. And the principal, the head principal of the school, was in the hallway and kind of overheard the conversation, kind of watched me interact. And like I said, I love my students. Like, genuinely, I really do love them. And so after they went in, I was like, man, why do they even come to school this late? It's like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, they might as well just ditch the whole day. And you know what she said that stopped me in my tracks? She said they're here for lunch because they're not getting food at home. Now, you tell me that government should totally stay out. And to an extent, I agree. But that was just like, oh my gosh, I knew she was right, but now I put a couple of students that I know in the classroom, that I love in the classroom, that it was not even on my radar that they don't have food at home. But the principal, why does she know that? Well, she knows a lot more than I don't know. Mm-hmm. And she knows it because of the government workings, right? She is a principal of a public education system, of a public education school. And she is bound by certain laws, but she also has a little bit of compassion. She also has some empathy, and she also has some background knowledge of these students. Now, would it have occurred to you that those students, before I said that, were rolling in for lunch?
Will you think she knows that because she's a government employee, or because
I'm just
she's
saying
a
because of the
compassionate
government system
person?
set up in place, those children will eat. On
Okay.
Monday through Friday.
Well,
and you know what she had to throw in there too? She was like,
why does the vice principal know it though? It's not because what the government
she
gave
does
her.
a good job at her
Because
job. I don't
she's
know.
a good person.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think
But when
we
you get
have
into
a better
education,
opportunity.
the whole point for me was like, yeah, if you're a strong family and you actually have your children's well-being at your top interest, yes, if you want to go choose their education, that's amazing. But are you educated already? You are. Not every parent is educated, and they actually don't care. There's some students that will sit in my class and do absolutely nothing, which is hard to do because I'm super obnoxious and I'm all up in their business at all times. But if we don't speak the same language, and if maybe in the culture that the student is in, the emphasis on education is you don't actually need it, I am so grateful that there are tons of students who get education because the United States says, hey, if you're this age, we need you to be at school and we need you to learn these things and we need you to test on these things. There are some added benefits that I don't know that I ever saw. And I'm, like I said, I'm only 2 years in, so I don't know everything. I am definitely not an expert in this, but I am front and center to seeing some kids actually learn some things. Now, it's the United States. We're not like the smartest country in the world, right? Like we just
Well,
zoom back 20,000 feet. Nobody says, United States, man, they are geniuses at school. No, they don't say that. Maybe they say that about kids in Europe, maybe about kids in like China, whatever, but they're not saying it about the United States.
Right.
But even with our
even
mediocre,
though we spend more on school
I know
than
it's
others.
pathetic.
And quite honestly, the states that spend the most per capita on students have the lowest test scores.
It's
So
the ones that have the bigger families. I saw that study in my family relations thing. If they have a mom and dad at home that care, their test scores look like their
There you
mom and
go.
dad care.
So
But if
it's
mom
not
and
the
dad don't
government, it's
care,
the family.
it is the family.
So the best government is the family.
Yeah, well, unless your family sucks, then it sucks. That's a whole different podcast.
I usually don't.
Did I just stump you?
Yeah, I usually don't run out of things to say.
Hey,
But-
you want me to talk about that? I got plenty to say. But no, education, I can see your point, but I can also see some safety nets that it sets in place. So like, I have a lot of students that have 504 and IEPs. What are individualized education plans and 504? I don't know what 504 actually stands for because it's a number, but for layman's terms, can we call it layman's terms?
Sure.
For layman's terms, it's this. These students if you just hand them a regular test, I would say standardized, but I make the tests that I give, and I don't know that you want to like credit me for being a standardized person, but I do follow the rubric. There are a set of guidelines. There are some laws in place, but it's up to me as the teacher to work that into the system, right? You got to follow the rules, but you can put it with your little spin on it, right? So there we are. Anyway, but my IEP 504 students, that's a safety net for them. Maybe they don't do well sitting in a large group of students taking a test. Okay, so then what I can do is I can make sure they have a place where they feel a little bit more comfortable. And maybe somebody like you would come along and be like, oh my gosh, take the test like everybody else. Okay, but I don't know why, but it just does not work for them. I have one student that if I give him a test in a whole group, and I have 40 students in that class, right? He flunks. He's flunked like 3 tests. But if I take that exact same test and we go outside and it's just one-on-one, I've done this a couple times during my prep period, I'll just take him the test, he'll sit in the hallway. Am I helping him? No. If he has a question, I'll answer a question, but I'm not going to give him the answer to the test. This is just basic math, right? Aces it. What the heck? But his 504 is that safety net in place. What I'm saying is that the government being involved in the education to an extent, because I don't think it should be all encompassing, but to an extent, it puts a safety net on people who don't have a good home life, who do not have a family that cares at all, or maybe come from a culture that puts no emphasis on education. Now those kids, now those safety nets there for them. And it's not the best,
Yeah.
but it's better than zero.
And I can understand and appreciate that. Having I'm not in education, I'm not educating children on a daily basis, although I'm a father and I'm responsible for life skills that my children learn.
Which are so important
think
too.
that the only thing that I would come back with as a rebuttal is that every one of us instinctually wants to have a good life. And if there were a large amount
But different
of
cultures look at that, and different socioeconomic class look at what a better life is differently.
I understand.
Like if you
but
ask some of my students,
just
they'd be
let me-
like,
just let me finish the
better
thought
life
here.
is this car and this house.
No, and so
But that's
whatever their
may not
better
be
life
better.
definition is, give them opportunities and make it a large variety. And so the variety of opportunities that they have, they can pick the one that fits them the best. Just like a pair of shoes. The pair of shoes that one person picks is not going to be the best for another person. And I think the same is for an education. We can't make it one size fits all, and
It
with
doesn't
the
fit
government,
all,
it
yeah.
attempts to do that. And I think that children will thrive when you give them the opportunity to excel in a manner in which fits them and contribute their time, their money, their effort in a way, in a competitive market from a diversity of educational programs. And that's why I think that the market running the education would be a better option than the government running
What
the
would happen to
education.
the low ones
Well,
in a market run education? And I'm honestly asking, I'm not asking with like an,
I have been
no idea. What would that look like?
in a situation where I had very little growing up, and I wanted to have an opportunity to excel, but I didn't want to go to college. I didn't see myself as college material, and I would have learned and applied myself in a different way in a trade, and I would have loved to have learned that trade, whether it had been auto mechanics or whether it had been, I don't know.
HVAC.
HVAC, sure, it could have been that. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew
I don't know why
didn't
HVAC
want to
doesn't own Arizona. They should, man.
I knew I didn't want to sit in a class for 8 hours a day, and I was only probably getting 10 minutes worth of education during that 8 hours. And that wasn't working for me, and I don't think it works today for our kids. Now, maybe they go to get that lunch, but there's a different way for them to earn their lunch and feel satisfied in what they achieve than have it being given to them just so they don't starve. Mm-hmm. That's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Oh, you're welcome. Everyone just got a little bit less smart, but it's fine.
This is Life, Death, and the Law. We'll
Minus
talk to you
the
next
death.
week.
Yes.
Yes.
If you have questions or want to know more about something that was discussed today, please call the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen at 928-783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.